Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Unapologetically Audacious podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I really have an exciting one for you today. So there are moments in life when the fear of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. And that's when everything shifts, when the magic happens. It's not when the world changes, it's when you change. And our guest today is someone who embodies this, who is absolutely amazing. She is a game changer. She has not only built an incredible soul and strategy-led business, she's built a movement, one that empowers you to take up space, one that empowers you to take control over your own financial power, transform your identity, shift your mindset, and encourages you to be the best version that you could possibly be, the one that you were always meant to be. Everyone, please welcome me in joining CEO and mortgage broker of Mortgage Savvy. Rakhee, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is such a privilege. I've enjoyed our connection from the first moment. We had an opportunity to share stories, and it's a privilege to be here and explore further.
You know, it really is a gift to have you because I feel like we connected by a mutual friend, and like attracts like, and I feel very strongly about soul connection. And when you and I met, for me, it was like our bodies met after, but our souls already knew each other, as crazy as that might sound to other people. And to me, you really are somebody who is a leader of reimagining what's possible for your life professionally, personally, your dreams, everything and otherwise. And that's why I'm so excited to have you, because we align so much on our core values and our intentions, and you are so inspiring to so many people. And I just, with that conversation we had, I knew you were meant to be here and share your wisdom with everybody. So what I wanted to start off with was, we did have a really beautiful off-camera discussion, but I wanted to start with sort of your journey and your transition. You started off, you've created this soul and strategy-led business, but before that, you started off in the corporate space. What was sort of that pivotal moment for you when you knew it was time to stop playing small in order to step into your purpose and be and live out to be this person you were always supposed to be?
The moment I had my daughter was my moment. It was when I discovered that time truly is the most precious commodity, and freedom of leading with prioritizing her needs first. I loved working in the corporate world. I had ambitions and I wanted to climb that corporate ladder. But I do remember the day my daughter got sick, and I had responsibilities in that environment, and having to ask for permission to leave was the game-changing moment for me. At that moment, I realized that there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way where I can excel as a mom, where I can own that as well, and still own my ambitions. And that was the moment I made the decision that I needed to do something for myself, and I needed to set that example for her.
That's amazing. She is 14.
She is 14 and fierce.
Fierce, just like her mom, and you are amazing. And it takes a lot of audacity for you to sort of take that leap and be like, how can I make this better? And being able to prioritize that. And it requires, it's bold, like I said, it's very audacious. Were there any fears or sort of mindset boundaries that you had to overcome to take that leap?
Absolutely. There's that imposter syndrome that we constantly are battling in our minds. I think that's a constant and consistent sort of challenge that I still experience. But I've always been a dreamer. My parents will tell you that I used to, sort of take moments where teachers would complain because I'd be, dreaming out a window of what was next. I've always been that visionary. I've always been that dreamer. And the passion of wanting to build and create has always been the pep in my step. So pushing myself past that, I had a purpose. I had this beautiful baby girl that was spunky personality that I wanted to provide an example for. If it wasn't for her, I'm not sure I would have been able to push through, but she was my reason why. And creating Mortgage Savvy, when I first initially incorporated, was to do one mortgage a month. That was the intention. It was to help one family a month learn skills that others didn't have the patience to teach, or the know-how or the skill set. I got a very quick education on banking guidelines, understanding that mortgage professionals at the institutional and banking level aren't necessarily licensed in mortgages. So when you're asking questions, they're not equipped to answer them. And the limitations we as individuals have, we don't necessarily have the means to find the solutions and the support. Support requires patience.
Right.
And I was approaching it with that patience and wanting to connect at that human level to help people reach their goal as I strive for mine.
That's amazing. And obviously a lot of, how you sort of lead your business, it is very much relationship focused,
Absolutely.
as you mentioned. And that's something that I do want to touch on. But first, to kind of get into a little bit of the nitty gritty of sort of mortgages, so to speak, is not so much about mortgages itself, but it's about the mindset and sort of the emotional psyche that comes behind that, right? Especially now we're living in Ontario. We're not strangers to the fact that there are extremely high housing costs. The interest rates are very high. When you started your journey in this, and in that perhaps you can share some advice, are there any sort of like money myths that you sort of had to overcome, or any pieces of advice that you can give to people that feel like home ownership just isn't an option for them right now, so that they can turn those dreams into reality?
Absolutely. I feel money creates fear. And a number of my clients will tell you that I can bring ease to the conversation and provide that reality check that it is attainable. As Canadians, we want to own our own homes.
Yeah.
It's a natural progression over time to be able to own the home you live in. However, it is a sizable purchase, and your mortgage becomes a debt that gets connected to this dream of home ownership. So it's absolutely educating people on the fact that you don't necessarily need 20%, that it's starting early. It doesn't mean going out and purchasing a property tomorrow, but arming yourself with the skills and the education so you can start prepping and preparing to take that step. Speed to market is something I encourage because of the fact that real estate offers wealth building if we take that longer term focus, and that's based on statistics.
Right.
So working with numbers and working with information, especially as we've seen changes in volatility, but grounding that in substance, which is statistics, numbers, and education, helps clients reach those next milestones. So it's absolutely achievable, but it's being open-minded to address your fears and take the steps needed to get there.
So would you say that that would be like the biggest thing that someone can do to start taking control over their financial power today, creating that financial literacy?
Absolutely. Financial literacy, there is such a gap. There is such a gap. The number of professionals that I have that we support that are great at what they do. If you're really great at what you do, you generally don't have capacity or the time. Life is busy. And that's okay. Default to a professional to hold your hand, to provide that guidance, and to take you through that journey. It's achievable. That is a reward. It's helping clients take that journey, and time has a way of flying. So going through those steps, the reward really is not just with that first purchase, but helping clients build a longer-term wealth building strategy. We're a movement to help clients be mortgage-free. Understanding good debt and bad debt. Understanding strategies in which you can start leveraging different strategies to help bring additional passive streams of income. Because when life gets uncertain, it's nice to have a fallback as well.
And with that fallback, I kind of want to go into the fallback of the mindset when it comes to money. So with this, let's say you have a client or somebody who is learning all these things, right? Who is starting to feel empowered and enriched and gain this confidence. But let's say something comes up. Are there any specific mantras that you have that sort of keep you grounded to remind you that you're still headed in the right direction? Or any mantras you can, advise to somebody else to keep your head up, even when things look a little bit muddy?
Everything happens for a reason. And there's a lesson to be learned in every life experience that shifts your perspective and teaches something new. That adds value, and that creates opportunity and a shift of perspective for what happens next.
This is one of the main reasons why we did connect. It's what you exude through your posts, who you are as a human being, your character, your soul. It is that perspective, right? And that's something that I feel like I connect the most with when it comes to you and sort of the value of the podcast. And I think what so many of our listeners today will connect with is that mindset, the perception, understanding that things do happen for a reason. So with that said, there's something I heard, and it's called your identity thermostat, right? And it's what governs our belief system, how we move professionally, personally, and so on. When it comes to that specifically, I would love to hear your opinion about, how can we begin to just sort of shift our internal thermostat to start stepping into the person that we are supposed to become. And this is something that you talk about. This is something that you walk the walk when it comes to. So I think that like everything starts with you first, right?
Pouring in. It's all internal.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to share as well a diagram that I think is really helpful to use as a tool to realign with where you are in a moment. Life is going to have its ebbs and flows. But when you are at a place of peace, peace comes from an awareness. When we have uncertainty, that's where anxiety, stress comes into play. But being able to educate ourselves and remove the fear. Oftentimes, strategies with money and helping clients reach those goals are really simplified. But it's getting clients to a place of peace, a place of understanding. That's where we start to see things move and evolve and shift and change.
So in terms of that, though, even just beyond money, in life, it applies to that too.
Absolutely, in every area of life. In order to have clarity, to really know what path to take, to know what decisions are right for you, requires internal peace. As a mom, I'm raising my daughter on my own. I'm running a business. The best advice I ever got was understanding that I needed to prioritize myself first and my daughter second. The advice I impart is it's yourself first, it's then your partner, it's then your child, and then it's your life. And the reason for that sequence is that we need to have that clarity by pouring into ourselves. And that our journey here is ever evolving. And we're going to continuously be changing. We all require a foundation, and that's where the partnership element comes in. And then being able to give to these various areas of our life. But it starts with finding our own identity and finding internal peace.
It's so funny because even earlier you mentioned awareness. There is that the internal identity and peace. And I love the sequence that you mentioned because this is something that I've heard as well. And I really do resonate with that significantly. When it comes to pouring in ourselves, though, a lot of people feel guilty, right? But so much of the work starts with the internal self. It's hard to kind of pour into a relationship if, let's say, you're not happy. It's hard to pour into your child fully if you are not happy, and it makes you wonder, what maybe you're projecting onto the people around you so long as your internal thermostat is not where it needs to be. So something like that is really important. And having self-awareness with where you're at, what your conditioning has been, what your belief systems are, and how to step into that next best version of you. Are there any challenges or things that you've had to navigate to sort of find peace and happiness for yourself?
I think as entrepreneurs and when we're juggling, different aspects of life can be unpredictable. We all have our challenges. It's understanding that we need to step out of the busy. It's being able to switch and understanding from the learning that I've received, it's taking those 30 minutes a day, like small commitments to yourself. My challenge has always been making that switch, being able to disconnect, finding that I don't have time in a day. There's so much to do. But understanding that when I do stop and take those 30 minutes, everything that happens later in that day, it's a lot more efficient. I'm able to give more. So small commitments that are achievable consistently is where you get results and shifts and changes.
Keeping the promises you make to yourself.
Exactly.
People say it all the time.
Yes.
You know, something quickly too is I saw that you you attended the Mel Robbins.
I did.
She came yesterday, which was amazing.
did.
And I feel like that obviously really resonates a lot with this conversation. And she also focuses in her let them theory, right? Like you really have to take care of you and let others be themselves, but be yourself too. Have that self-acceptance. I'd love to kind of tap into a little bit of that theory and how that applies here in your personal, financial, and professional freedom, acceptance, and fulfillment.
It removes the distractions. There's so much time that we give to distractions that really have very little impact on why we're here. And Mel Robbins and the let them theory shifts that perspective. It gives you the courage to let go of things. It creates space and time for growth. It's understanding that you don't necessarily have to feel guilty, that we're all here. You know, we're the star characters of our own movie.
It's true.
And it's about living that life fully. What I really enjoyed about yesterday's event is it not only took me through the let them, which is that disconnect, which I think is very empowering, but it's also let me, understanding how we want to conduct ourselves. Oftentimes we're trying to control everything that's happening around us, but change happens when we start to shift in how we react, how we behave in circumstances. So that dual modality of looking at both sides, I think when it's applied together, creates those massive shifts. My daughter just turned 14. I'm definitely going through some challenges in communication and being able to support her in the world we live in today, which is very different than what it looked like when I was 14. Having her there yesterday to listen, to take the information in, she made some very smart decisions immediately after. It's all about education. It's all about supporting. And I think Mel's concept can provide those immediate results and shifts and changes that impact our lives.
And imagine the impact that would have on a 14-year-old. Think about the kids of now, like you said, the world's very different than when you were 14, when I was 14. Imagine every young person, detached from that expectation or how somebody ought to be, and they say, well, just let them. Imagine what a young mind, how they would benefit from that, and the peace that would bring them as they grow into adulthood and beyond.
As mothers, we want to protect our children. We want to kind of guide that journey, and I realize that this is her life to live, and I've got to let her go and explore. But the one thing I do want to impart is empower her to disconnect from judgment, disconnect from controlling or being impacted by opinions, and to really live in her true authenticity and just live for her and her vision and her life and not waste those moments. When I reflect back, I look at the time missed that had very little impact. And now I'm determined to create that for myself and lead by example for her, but I want her to feel that same level of freedom and empowerment.
Well, she's definitely going to feel that because she has someone like you in her life. You're definitely leading by example. And it's really beautiful to see, because I feel like a dynamic and a relationship like that between a parent and a child, it's not as common to come by now, especially in acknowledging, this is her life and I want her to be authentic, and you want to support her along the way and guiding her to be her true self. And, you mentioned not to sort of be distracted by other people's opinions. And that's a really important part of the conversation today, and something that I think you are amazing at when it comes to relationships, right? With your clients, it's all focused on relationships, but on a personal note as well, so many people project their fears onto other people, and then they call it advice. Or people project their own opinions, they use their own lens to project their opinions of how they see the world onto other people and how they ought to live their life. Do you have any advice or any comments on, how to find more of those aligned, fulfilling, meaningful relationships that are in alignment with your own growth and purpose and are not driven by that projection of fear?
I find we don't listen enough, and people want to be seen. It's giving people a space where they can share, where they feel safe enough to be vulnerable with you. That's where connection forms. It's also challenging yourself to share your own stories and your own challenges. We often show up on social and in these spaces curated, and it's this perfect image, but it's sharing the truth behind the optics that creates connection. I personally have found that to be the most vulnerable asset, because when I connect authentically with just focusing on sharing my story and giving people a space to be vulnerable and share their challenges in a safe environment, that creates a forever connection. We're here to be poised to be those strategic advisors to our clients on their real estate decisions, but I have clients messaging me when they're looking to buy a car to ensure that it truly fits within the set of goals we've set up for our clients. It's those check-ins, it's that consistent follow-up, it's ensuring that we're aware if, a family that's recently bought a home has recently had another child and maybe they need more space. It's being there to have the conversations. How do we prep for that? How do we prepare for that? But relationships are built on care. I recently shared a photo of a client where I'd gone to do a visit. There was no immediate transaction involved with this visit, but my client had had a baby boy, and I spent the afternoon playing with him. But it was really moving to see how far her life had come from the moment we had met to now having a home with this beautiful family. She had a number of challenges that we overcame together. But that moment of what that felt like in connection was so healing to my heart, and that's what drives purpose as well.
I feel like for you, you're obviously you're more than what you do. You build these connections with your clients, with everyone you meet. You sell more than homes to people. You allow people to find the home within themselves. I think that that's your gift, and that's something that you do. And it's like you said, people want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be understood. And I know this by meeting you, and I know this by what you do and what you represent. Is you help people more than just buying their home. It's you make them feel heard, that they can conquer whatever challenges come their way. They can achieve and acquire the life that they dream of, and you care so deeply and you help guide them along the way. You're more than what you do for them. In many ways, you're a coach, you're a friend, you have so much care, and that's what radiates in your energy with them. And that's something that I'm sure you already know, but I want to provide confirmation on for you as well, because that is such a gift that you share with people, and they're very fortunate to be in that space with you.
It's the balance I find with having that nurturing personality. Growing up in a very nurturing environment, that was my blessing. So you learn those skills in those environments, and that was my blessing. That's what gave me the confidence to step into my power. Money creates challenges. There's such fear attached to it. And reality is that we're not getting the education we need in financial literacy to make the changes and make those shifts. And it's okay to reach out to somebody like you would to a personal trainer, to put a plan into place, to create achievable goals, to make it digestible, to set a timeline that aligns with your vision, and then consistently be there to check in and provide that ongoing support. And when clients hit that milestone, the first one, they're committed to the vision. And that's what creates that longevity in the relationships. Totally. Mortgage Savvy is going to hit 10 years. And I now reflect back at our database of clients that are really our community, and the trust that's been built, and to be there as the default. to wake up to wonderful messages this morning. That's what fuels, but that's where it's also understanding it's the openness, it's the comfort, it's the ability to be present in communication, to understand a client's vision, but then be able to execute with this spreadsheet to set those goals, to create a timeline, and help clients achieve those goals.
And with those goals, I'm just curious, there are a lot of people that we grow up learning or having our own perception of the way things should look when it comes to home ownership, mortgages, things like that, be it from what we've learned from our parents, our friends, so on and so forth, right? And there's no such thing as the right way, so to speak, right? It's the way that works for you. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, have you had clients that have come in that sort of had this idea of how things are supposed to look, or be it in their mortgages, or how, you go and you pursue that and everything shifts just because they have that little bit of open-mindedness, and everything they suddenly learned, they're starting from scratch?
100%. One statement that I often make to clients is that I want them to like me after they've moved in. I want to ensure that we're addressing what their lifestyle goals are. So I generally will have clients do audits of the last 3 months of spend. What are their priorities? What is the future going to look like? When I started in the industry, I just had SIA. I understood the magnitude of having a daycare cost monthly that could equate to the size of a mortgage that's not visible when you pull your credit report. There are obligations or expenses that reflect in your lifestyle that fall outside of what is going to be visible on your credit report. So it's important to take those considerations into place. It's important, it's okay to travel, it's okay to pursue passions. It just requires proper budgeting and planning, and that needs to be tied to the financial decisions you're making. The purchase of a home is a sizable decision, and it requires that added support and coaching. So that awareness shifts the focus. We don't take the approach of looking at maximizing your qualification and getting you to go out there and buy something that may not necessarily align, although you can qualify for the mortgage. Can you afford it? Does it align with where you want to be and what else is happening in your world? It's taking the steps and understanding that often we set achievable mindset, like milestones, but eventually getting to that destination. Sorry.
No, that's good. No, that's amazing. And honestly, I love that you focus a lot on alignment. I think that there's a lot of people that do see it as, well, I can qualify for this, but they might not actually be able to afford it. Next thing you know, they're in this home and they're drowning.
100%. And over the last couple of years, we've seen volatility with interest rates.
Yeah.
That requires preparation. Our clients were prepared.
Right.
We over-communicated. We ensured that our clients were focused on affordability.
Right.
Life is uncertain. Inflation will continue. Rates will continue to rise over time. What strategies are we employing today to keep you safe and secure when things change?
Absolutely. And that also applies in your life too. That's something that you talk about. You talk a lot about building strategies that are in alignment with, what it is you want to do professionally with your home, but also personally. And you talk a lot about legacy, and the way that you explain it is so beautiful. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more about what that really means to create a legacy for yourself professionally, but also personally from an internal point of view.
We often think we have forever. We don't like to focus on the end, but it's a reality that I personally had to face. In 2023, I became a widow. So the reality of understanding that I had helped clients build wealth through real estate for over 10 years, and I had helped clients purchase property that was going to serve as a legacy for their children in the future. But we weren't protecting what we were building. There's a lack of education. There's that gap. It was that experience that had me very quickly learn the importance of not just building, but providing overall oversight on protecting what you're building. And as successful entrepreneurs, as well as professionals, clients that walk through my door, we also need to focus on an end date. Retirement strategies. How long are we working for? Is the debt that we're taking on aligned with that end date? Do we have strategies for supplementing income? How are we achieving those goals? We become so fixated on the immediate need, taking that longer term vision, planning for contingencies and the moments you don't anticipate, because we assume bad things happen to other people. And we still lead with positive intention, but we prepare and create a foundation for a soft landing when things don't necessarily go as planned.
And how can we do that with our own selves as the individual?
Taking stock of where you are, getting honest, getting real with your current position, focusing on the desires that feel so imminent and that you feel need to be the immediate focus, and really taking on that longer vision. That's what fuels smart decisions today, is understanding the destination. But that's often lacking.
Right. And part of getting to that destination is also the journey, right?
Absolutely.
That sort of brings me to, this podcast is called Unapologetically Audacious, because I really do believe that we as human beings, we are here for such a short period of time. And how long we're here for is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. And that's something that, you've shared as well. And I think, how important is it for us to just be ourselves and get comfortable with who we are? So for you, what does being unapologetically audacious mean to you?
I can with clarity say that I live my life by those words every day and in every moment. Having experienced the magnitude of loss, I very quickly learned that you don't have tomorrow. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. You have right now, and I am going to lean on Mel Robbins and let them. In the first 5 seconds, we know the answer. Do we have the courage to act? Push yourself, act. Do it now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Remove the ego. Say what needs to be said. Do what you want to do in the moment today. We spend so much time reflecting on the past. And we need to let that go. But we can take the lessons forward, which is that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, but we do have the moments that we have right now. And being unapologetically yourself.
So beautiful. For those, though, that listen to that, there are going to be a lot of people that feel so empowered by that and still have this, for many people, this crippling fear to step into that, to really lead their life that way. Is there anything you could say to them that can just give them that little bit of an extra nudge to just be like, it's okay to be you, it's okay, you're safe, it's okay?
This requires consistent work. There are moments where I have fear, so it's acknowledging that fear in these moments is a natural emotion. So acceptance. Once we can accept, visioning in that moment what that feeling's like on the other side, and then challenging yourself to set one goal and making sure that you achieve it. That creates that platform for that next step, and that's where we start to see growth, evolution, and change.
Consistency is key.
Absolutely.
You're amazing. You're absolutely amazing. And, obviously, you being where you are today is a testament to all the hard work that you've put into yourself, in your business, in yourself personally. And it really is admirable because so many people are afraid to take that step. They're afraid to look at themselves in the mirror. They're afraid to take stock of maybe their bad habits or behaviors that they continue to exhibit. They're afraid to let go of years of conditioning, belief systems, and doubt that are not even their own. Doubt that comes that are projected, doubt that is inherited. It's not even theirs. And you've taken that step, and you continue to take that step, right? Part of learning the self, it's a lifelong journey, but you've also taken that step professionally. And that's one of the reasons too why, for some people that don't know, like, you're speaking at an event that we're doing in September.
Yes.
And it really is an honor to have you, because when it came to finding people for that, the focus is alignment. And I feel like you really do embody all those things and those values, and that intention that you're going to bring is going to inspire a lot of women that are coming to that event. And it is going to be primarily women that come. And with that said, you know, you coming there, what is going to be the major takeaway you want them to feel when they walk out after hearing you speak?
Confidence, a sense of empowerment with money, not just the inspiration, but realize strategies that they can take into their lives immediately to start creating change. Prior to my personal challenges, I was, I had the pleasure of being in spaces of inspiration. But what was lacking was the know-how of how to create shifts that would impact my life for tomorrow. And so it's real life strategies that you can employ that create that confidence, that create that reassurance, that create an opportunity for these women to believe in building for themselves, that it's achievable, removing that fear, making it digestible, making it achievable. That's what creates sort of that momentum for those shifts and changes that I'm hoping I'll bring into this space for the event.
And you absolutely will, and that's something that you bring into everybody you meet. And I want you to know that is really what translates. And, as part of that confidence, obviously, it takes time to really step into our confidence. I want to go back to the childhood version of you. If you had to look back and see that little girl right in front of you right now, what would you say to her?
Take the world. It's yours. Life is all about the impact we make on people's lives. I had 2 pivotal moments in 2023 that created a massive shift and realigned my purpose. Losing my mom and losing my husband in the same year, 3 months apart. But what I very quickly learned is how blessed I was. At their final ceremonies, we had an overflow of attendees. And the reason for that was because of the lives that they had impacted and the stories that were buzzing in that room. Our time here is so limited. We get so caught up in the day-to-day that truly doesn't matter, and that's often forgotten. But it's the impact we make and how we make people feel that leaves that legacy beyond real estate, beyond the wealth we build. We can't take anything with us, but we can create impact by making our lives count and having purpose. And that purpose gives you that pep in your step that fuels that energy of creating for yourself for tomorrow as well, because then you attract.
You've definitely been through a lot, and I can't even imagine what it must have been like in those moments. And you are so loved. And you're right when it comes to the impact we leave on other people. You hear about it so often, even from some of these personal development gurus, so to speak, the Mel Robbins, the Tony Robbins, the Ed Miletts of the world. And they always talk about, it's not even just about what you do, it's the mark you leave on people. And that really is what legacy is. So for you to even say that too is so amazing, because it's true. Everything can go away, but what people remember is how you made them feel. It's leaving people and the world better than you found it.
Absolutely. I often will help clients in challenging situations. And those calls start off panicked, not knowing the answers, being there to listen, and then being able to devise a strategy to get them to the other side. And knowing that you've impacted their lives. What can seem like a real estate transaction has a story behind it. Has another widow in their home with their children safe and sound and secure financially. That's emotional stability for her children is how I see it, not just a transaction.
Absolutely. And that's who you are, is you do leave that mark on people, and you're amazing. And I hope you know that. And I hope that there are enough people in your life that remind you of that. And that's why today's conversation too, I feel like if somebody started tuning into this feeling unsure or didn't know where to start, I know that the wisdom that you shared today is going to leave them feeling that much more confident to take that step in whatever it is that they're doing, but give them the courage to take that audacious action to live the life that they want, even if that means picking up a book on financial literacy or calling you and saying, I don't know what to do, or looking at the last 3 months of their spending, or just looking at themselves in the mirror and telling themselves, hey, I'm good enough. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, and just sharing all of that. It really is such a gift to have you here, to have your wisdom. And like I said at the top of the podcast, you really are somebody who I see as a leader of reimagining what's possible for yourself in your personal life, your professional life. And I can't wait to see what else you do. You're amazing.
Thank you, Rebecca. This has been such a gift to be able to have this conversation, to share my thoughts, and to be a part of this incredible event. Thank you.
Thank you.